Three, two.
Welcome to another episode of Miami Cop Talk. I'm Raul with my co-host here, Robert Asencio. We want to welcome our listeners and our viewers. And before we start, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors and partners in this endeavor, MiamiCopTalk.com. Visit us on our website. You'll see some of our sponsors there. But we want to give a shout out to Miami Tactical, one of our sponsors, New Era Alliances, Share Your Heart, and Mainline Marlins podcast. They are great supporters of the show. We're really excited about partnering with them. And we have a great guest with us this day, Robert, a fellow law enforcement professional, now a politician, something
Elected official,
something like what you did, retired from law enforcement and figured I could really make a difference not only on the streets in uniform, but in elected office. Do you want to introduce our guest, Robert?
Absolutely. So good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, whichever time you watch this. We're here at Miami Cop Talk, and we want to give you an insider's view into law enforcement or first responders world, not just from the law enforcement perspective, but also from the stakeholders. And I could not think of a better person to have on the show, a public servant, former Sweetwater police lieutenant, who had ran for county council and wound up on the commissioner, the council of Sweetwater, the city of Sweetwater. Without further ado, this gentleman's name is Marco Villanueva, and I think he will do credit by just introducing himself and then giving a little background on himself. Marco, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing? Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome, brother.
Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate the opportunity. And by the way, I love the show, Cop Talk. Isn't it funny how we would always say, either talking shop or Cop Talk, and now here you are 30 some odd years later with your own show, and that's the name of the show. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, and that's something that you and I have spent some time, all three of us, in different places, but, a little ventanita, drinking a little cafecito, having a little croqueta, whatever.
Cop Talk.
Talking about the community.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Marco, I'm sorry, Raul, but the last place I saw you was actually in the city of Sweetwater, talking to your constituents, buying them coffee, and amongst other things that we can get into, which you've actually bought the city, which is admirable, the resident of the city of Sweetwater. But let's get into this. Who are you, Marco? And tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get into the meat of this topic.
So my name is Marco Villanueva. I'm a former Sweetwater PD police lieutenant. I'm the current commissioner of the city of Sweetwater. I'm the owner of Maverick Security Services and several other business ventures. I started my police career in 1997 in the city of Sweetwater when this department was, rampant with corruption. And at the time, I really didn't know it because I was just I was a junior guy. I was a rookie. When you're a rookie, you just do as you're told. As time goes on, you start learning that, what's happening. Hey, that's not cool. And just imagine working in that kind of environment. So I've had a really interesting career. It's been like a roller coaster. I've fought corruption my entire career, my entire life. And when you fight corruption, no surprise, corruption most certainly fights back. It's been a battle, and we're still battling today. Luckily, now 20 some odd years later, our agency just received a reaccreditation from CFA yesterday. They had a press conference.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Kudos to the guys, kudos to the command staff. What's interesting is that was my last deployment before, turning in my papers. They made me the lieutenant of the Office of Professional Compliance, and one of those things. I had 24 charges under under my command. I think they were trying to push me out, really. And one of those things was accreditation. So that was one of the things we were able to achieve in the city of Sweetwater. Nobody thought we could have. Throughout my career, I've unfortunately had to fire and sometimes arrest fellow brother policemen. At that point, they're not brothers or sisters. I was the chief of staff. Former Mayor Jose Diaz. being the chief of staff, I was in charge of everything. One day the chief of police is my boss, and the next day I'm his boss. It was a pretty interesting dichotomy. And we were able to clean the place up. We fired and arrested over 54 employees. We cleaned the entire department. We cleaned the entire city. The city of Sweetwater is not the same city as people remember it. My story is a lot more, lengthy than that, but that's just, as we say in Spanish, por arribita.
Yeah, Marcos, I'll have to say that I know some of the members out there in the Sweetwater Police Department. Kudos to your chief, Diaz, and my tocayo Raul Ruberlo, came from the city, and then let's not forget, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Pretty Boy Carmona, Arquiles. Yeah, I've known him for a long time, and they're doing a good job so far from what I see. The vehicles look good. I know that the city of Sweetwater annexed a great part of land a few years back. They oversee now the Dolphin Mall. So many malls out there, and I'm not a mall guy, so I couldn't remember. But I know you got International Mall, Dayland Mall. Again, I'm not a mall guy. Dolphin Mall, and from what I gather,
you're an Amazon guy.
I am an Amazon guy. I'm sorry, a Amazon Prime. Now I will say this: Sweetwater, like every municipality, has its challenges. Recently, we've seen in the news, and a few months back, potential active shooter and things at Dolphin Mall. And I would have to say they were handled, considering what just recently happened yesterday in Boulder, Colorado, which was a horrible situation. And, my heart goes out to those that lost life, and Officer Talley that lost his life defending his community out there in Boulder, Colorado. Dolphin Mall has had some scares, but the Sweetwater Police Department has been there. And now, can you talk a little bit about the response and what the city has done to curtail that kind of situation?
Well, I will say this. The previous administration, the previous police administration, going back about 10 years, Sweetwater PD has always been known for tactics, whether SWAT training or high-risk tactics, or,
right.
You're always going to have some kick-ass guys, some door kickers. I was a door kicker. And luckily for us, every single year for the last, I'd say 12, 13 years, we've probably had about 14 agencies conducting a yearly active shooter training in Dolphin Mall. Everything from the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to, Miami-Dade SRT, City of Miami SWAT, Coral Gables, NMB. So every single SWAT team in Miami-Dade County and Broward would go out to Dolphin Mall, and we'd have different SWAT scenarios, similar to SWAT roundup. So luckily for us, the majority of patrol either have, or either SWAT or high-risk tactics training or some sort of tactical training. So when it comes to an active shooter in Dolphin Mall, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Obviously I'm always going to pull towards Sweetwater PD, but when it comes to active shooter training, Sweetwater PD is hands down one of the best trained law enforcement agencies in the nation. Only because we do it so much, it becomes second nature. And the training has changed throughout the years. Remember, it wasn't what it is now. Right now it's go find a bad guy, bypass everything, and attack, and eliminate the threat. Before it wasn't like that. And we learned that lesson in Columbine, and I believe that was 1999, where they were extremely slow, methodical, and they made some mistakes, some errors. Nowadays, I mean, I guarantee you, either one of you guys would have wanted to be there at the Parkland shooting. I mean, if I had a time machine, I'd want to be there to try and eliminate that threat. And unfortunately, in today's society, this is a reality, and there are bad guys out there. There are bad people out there that are committing these atrocities, and we got to protect ourselves.
Yeah. So, Marco, there was something that Raul and I were talking offline before we came in. We stopped to get our cafecito to talk a little bit about police stuff and the community. But who was it? George Carlin that said that the late great George Carlin that said on his podcast was commenting about. We spend so much time and we spend so many years, decades. It's actually turned out to be several decades now, bastardizing the police, right? Talking down about trust and distrust of police. And then now, we have what's happening on Miami Beach, the lawlessness, if you will, and people actually attacking police officers. That is an unintended consequence of this era of let's bash the cops. So let's give people a better understanding here, because we've been talking about and focusing on relations, right? Building
Right.
better relations with the community and giving input on training, an insider's view of training. So do you remember, those times when you've gone after a subject, an armed subject, gun in hand, and you've actually, gone, whether you're part of the diamond or the quick entry team, right? The rat, we call it the rat. We used to call it the rat. I don't know what they're calling it now. First on scene, first 4 people go in and try to neutralize the subject. Can you remember what was going through your head at that time, and how difficult, for you it's probably mechanical, but how difficult it is to work through those steps, then to ultimately shoot, shoot.
We know it's not as dangerous as when you walk into the commission chambers now as a commissioner, but more or less.
Yeah. When I walk into the commission chambers, I gotta have a bulletproof vest. Now listen, and you know this, and to our viewers that watch this, in a stressful situation, you always revert back to training.
Correct.
I remember the first time we did that diamond formation, that CQB diamond formation for rapid action tactics. It was in Belen. We pulled out all the kids from Belen, and that was in about 2004, 2005. And I know we did that multi-agency, and that's when we were teaching that. And the training has changed throughout the years. Now, for an operator, for a tactical guy, it just becomes second nature. I actually have, I'm a heavy set guy. I'm 250 pounds. I wasn't, I probably gained 50 pounds when I left the PD. But even when I was heavier, I would have to slow down because I always wanted to attack. And they teach you to be slow and methodical and move as slow as your fastest, and move as fast as your slowest man in your detail. But I will tell you this, just to touch on 2 things that you guys are talking about. Number one, what's happening socially in the United States with this hating police culture, and it really pisses me off. There is most certainly a faction or a group of individuals that want to go ahead and separate law enforcement from the rest of society. They want to make us or alienate us. And I will tell you, for the first time in the history of the United States, when the George Floyd situation occurred, there was not one police officer that I met, not one, that did not agree that the actions of that officer were wrong. For the first time in the history of the United States, you had every single police officer, every single law enforcement professional saying, that is wrong. That is wrong, and we are not here to condone that kind of behavior. And it started to catch legs. And all of a sudden, that faction, that shadowy, again, and we can call those organizations by name, started to attack law enforcement. And here you had law enforcement saying, well, hold on a second, we're with you. Like, this is wrong. Let's work together. It was the first time in history that I can remember that. And they saw that law enforcement was about to bridge that gap, and man, did they attack. And this was literally 2 weeks prior, but it was praising law enforcement. Thank you for risking your life and being out on the street with COVID. So listen, no matter what law enforcement officers do, no matter what law enforcement professionals do, there's always going to be a faction, a group, an organization powerful enough on the other side to try and demonize us. That's just my personal opinion. Now, what's happening in Miami Beach, look, it's sad. I've always said this. Poor planning gives you poor performance. You're going to have 500,000 to 1 million people in Miami Beach. And there are only 500 police officers in the city of Miami Beach Police. Prior to they have a meeting like they have every year, and they ask all the law enforcement agencies, hey, how many of your officers can you go ahead and donate to us? Can you donate these officers? But the individual municipal government has to pay for their salary. So the city of Miami Beach has not budgeted. and I don't know if you guys realize this. The city of Miami Beach is not budgeted for Memorial Day weekend. Did you guys know that?
Yeah,
No.
pretty much so. Yeah, I think, and I don't mean to jump in here, but I would tell you, I agree with what you're saying. And there's a saying that I say, it's not mine, but if you fail to plan to fail. I'm not trying to come down on the Miami Beach Police Department. I know Chief Clemens out there is doing the best he can with what he's been given, and our elected leaders need to step up. I mean, I know the mayor.
That's the issue.
The mayor came out and declared a state of emergency and the whole 9 yards. I think that's a stain on the mayor's leadership. And I'm sorry, Mayor, if you're listening or hearing, but you need to do better. And I know we like to point the finger at the police, like you were saying. We all unified around what happened with the George Floyd situation. The fact of the matter is, I mean, I think the unofficial polls say that most people that want to defund the police also believe in fairy tales and unicorns. But the fact of the matter is, you've never heard any defund of Capitol Police up in D.C. As a matter of fact, now they want the National Guard to be there. So while the rest of some are saying defund, they're building up their police force around the Capitol. There's just think about that. So the fact of the matter is, Miami Beach, I think has Miami-Dade and Gables helping out. But what we need is the community to help out. And people need to realize whatever's happening out there, it's national news. And we're here talking about it today, saying people got to stop, act accordingly. We've had individuals in our local community saying it's racism, is this, it's not. What it is people need to act accordingly. If I invite you into my house and you act a fool, you're going to be treated like a fool. And that is not what we want in our community. People should not be treated like fools. And first of all, police react to people's actions. No one talks about that.
Yeah, that brings us to the point of, why when I talked to Raul, I pushed for you to be on the show, because you've transitioned from being an actual on-duty officer to getting elected, right? And by state law, we cannot hold two public offices. And police officer is a public office, and then an elected office is also public. So we have to resign or retire. Unlike firefighters, they can actually serve in the legislature or elected office. But here's a very good point. Let's put things in perspective. Miami Beach, what has occurred, the chaos on Miami Beach is a huge blemish, huge black eye for South Florida. There are those that believe that we definitely need to keep our economy open, and I'm one of those. But we brought crowds to South Florida, right?
Correct.
Crowds converged on South Florida. And during the last 2.5 weeks of spring break, there have been over 1,000, I think it's almost 1,100 arrests as of last night, the city of Miami Beach. There have been over 102 firearms seized. So that tells us that people are carrying guns out there, which are always dangerous to crowds.
Homicide. I think they
Yeah, we've had several homicides on the beach.
Let me say this, if I can.
Let me just close out this thought, because I want to get right to you, Marco, and I know you're gonna jump on this. It's the police officers follow law, and the policy set by the elected officials. Why did you run for office, and how do you find that dynamic? And now you're sitting on the dais presiding over enactment of law, and it affects law enforcement. We definitely need more perspective on the diocese, right?
Let me tell you something. First of all, the officers in the city of Miami Beach PD, if you're watching, kick-ass job. Kick-ass job. Keep doing what you're doing. If you notice, the out-of-towners that come to Miami Beach during Memorial Day, they come with a different mentality. And notice I use the keyword out-of-towners. Why? Because out-of-towners think it's okay to throw buckets of water on police officers. Out-of-towners think it's okay to spit on police officers and call them names, and they have absolutely no repercussions. In Miami-Dade County, you throw a bucket of water on a cop, get ready for the repercussions. And we will work within the letter of the law, but I guarantee you there will be a use of force. You don't throw a bucket of water on a cop. You don't berate cops. You don't sit there and attack police officers. And that's one of the things that started to piss me off towards the end of my career. The bureaucracy in law enforcement, tying officers' hands. You remember the UPS shooting? Well, I did an interview, and Robert, you know that I shoot straight from the hip. I'm not a very good politician, but I think I'm a great public servant. And they were like, well, why did the officers in the UPS shooting, why didn't they, why didn't they stop? Why didn't they use different tactics? And here come the Monday morning quarterbacks. And I said, you know what? You know what they should have done? They should have thrown stop sticks. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have stop sticks in Miami-Dade County. You know what they should have done? They should have rammed the truck. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Per policy, we're not allowed to ram. You know, they could have shot on tires. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. We're not allowed to shoot on the tires. We're not allowed to do anything other than watch and react. And now you want us to have the very best ninja tactics or abracadabra and everything's fine. If we don't give law enforcement the tools and the backing, what do we expect from them? It's exactly people that believe in unicorns.
Yeah.
Expect them to have a Harry Potter wand and say abracadabra, drop the knife.
Yeah.
No, don't shoot the gun, abracadabra.
Yeah, but police officers don't have magical powers, and we all know that. And as we're getting ready to close out, I would have to say, we a lot in law enforcement, we feel what you're saying, but I want to make it perfectly clear. South Florida is a welcoming community for visitors, for outsiders. We welcome tourism. Everybody from all ethnic race, you name it, everyone's welcome. But act accordingly. Do not act a fool. Obey the law. We do not support lawlessness in South Florida. That's a fact.
I will tell you this, if I can. In the city of Sweetwater, we have Dolphin Mall with 60,000 patrons a day that generates, $4 billion a year.
From all over the world. From all over the world. I see them there. Exactly. Come from the airport. Yeah.
And we are an international destination, just like South Beach.
Correct.
But listen, I would love to see our officers just standing, leaning up against the cars, smiling and waving at vacationers. But these out-of-towners, and notice I don't use any race because it's not about race. I went to South Miami, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
If out-of-towners are acting accordingly, then great, have a great time. Cops don't have to do anything. They'll just sit there and smile and wave.
Hey, Mark, I hate to cut you off, but I got our producer, Tommy, here letting us know we're running into the end of our time. We want to invite you to come back. You tell us if you're available. Podcast. Yeah, we also do a podcast. You got that lively voice. I think.
Why don't we do one tonight?
I don't know. You go ahead.
Are you available to do one tonight at 7 p.m.? Well, we can talk about that offline. Let's coordinate that because I think this is a conversation that we should carry on, as most of our conversations are.
Correct.
But here's another thought, Marco. We'd like to invite you to help collaborate on this show because this show's about inclusion, right?
Absolutely.
We're asking civilians, non-police officers, non-police career individuals, but stakeholders to collaborate. Having said that, we've come to the end of our show. We want to thank our guest. Any parting thoughts, Marco, for our community?
Man, let's just love each other. Let's just stop being so separated. I think there are people trying to separate us. I think if we just start loving each other a little more, we'll be all right.
All right.
And obviously, support your police.
Amen.
On that note, we have been speaking with Marcos Villanueva, retired lieutenant, city of Sweetwater lieutenant, who's now a commissioner at the city of Sweetwater, a person continuing to serve our community. From Raul, Correa, and myself, we thank our sponsors, the Millers, Community News, for supporting us and allowing us to have the show. Tommy Stipp, always behind the scenes. Thank you, brother, for making this thing happen. So we'll talk to you all later. Thank you.